Welcome to the Gold Medal Excellence Podcast. I'm your host, Alexander Payne, along with my co-host, Chris Asher. And today on the program, we're joined by longtime college basketball coach, Bob Cantu. Coach Cantu, thanks for coming on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, and thanks for coming on, Coach. Never met you. Talked before the camera came on, but we know several people the same. Daryl Gross at Cal LA, he's my mentor. So I think at the time you were at Cal LA with him. I mean, not Cal LA, USC.
USC, yeah.
He was USC and then Syracuse, and he interviewed me, offered me jobs and stuff. So I've known your name for years on the college basketball circuit, just reading articles. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. So I'll start from the very beginning. Grew up in Paso, Robles, California. Went to school there throughout your high school years. Talk more about your childhood.
Yeah, actually was born in Glendale and moved up to Paso Robles when I was about 5 years old. It was a small town back then, like 13,000 people. Now it's known more for great wineries and restaurants and bed and breakfasts.
Cal Poly Slow, all that.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a fabulous place to live, but back then it was a lot different. But we moved up there, I think, in 1980. So my whole life was pretty much on the Central Coast. When you look at going to school as a young kid and transitioning to high school, Paso Robles High School, junior college at Cuesta College, San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly Slow, and then finishing my degree at Chapman University down in Orange County. But basically, I'm just a guy that loved the game of basketball. Was I'd say above average high school player, but I knew at some point there's not a lot of spots for a 5'9" two guard moving up playing at the highest level, and I wanted to see what I could do as a coach. My goal was always to be a high school coach and teacher, and I kind of fell into college coaching by working basketball camps in the summer. So when I was down in Southern California, I went and worked UCLA basketball camp. And to make a long story short, one of the kids that was on my team was named John Impleman. Well, his dad was Craig Impleman, was a longtime UCLA assistant. Mm-hmm. Well, his mom happened to be John Wooden's granddaughter.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And so they said, hey, would you like to work the John Wooden camps? This is like 1994. And I was like, well, I don't really know anybody over here. And they said, well, yeah, just come on over. You can stay with us. And I was kind of like, well, that's kind of weird. And I did it, and it just kind of opened up all kinds of doors. Was able to meet a lot of people. I mean, I literally got into an industry where I didn't know one person in college coaching, and ended up making, to this point, a 24-year career at all the levels. And just started at ground zero, doing freshman, JV basketball, assistant varsity, junior college, 3 years. I went to Sacramento State for 2 years. And then my big break was I got on at USC with Coach Bibby in 2001, 2002 season. And I was able to stay on 4 different times during all the coaching changes. And I was there till 2013, in which the last year I was the interim head coach. And had success, but not enough success to keep a job permanently. So after that transition, I ended up in El Paso, Texas at UTEP with Coach Floyd for the second time. Did that 3 years. We had 3 great seasons, 23, 22, 19 wins, went to NIT, went to 2 other postseasons. And that transitioned into a job with Terry Porter, the former Trailblazer at the University of Portland. Mm-hmm. And I did 3 years up there with him. And when that ended, I was like, you know what? I need a little time to reflect. I've been going 24 years pretty strong here. I need a break. So we moved to Kansas City, where my wife's from. And I've just been doing some part-time consulting, watching some NBA stuff, giving intel to different people I know, just kind of learning the game from a coach, going to a lot of college and pro practices and games, and just kind of observing, when you don't get to do that because you're always coaching your own team, the chance to do that. But I'm kind of getting antsy here to get back on the floor and start coaching again. So that's my plan. But in a nutshell, but yeah, it's pretty much started ground zero and just work. And I started a basketball camp with one kid, and I've had it now for 27 years, and we've had over 10,000 kids attend. I do that every summer in Paso, Robles, and San Luis Obispo. So that's one thing I enjoy, doing. And other than that, I've got 3 great dogs, 2 labs, and a Vizsla, and they keep me busy. And we have a lot of fun. If we're not watching a ball game, we're probably out throwing the ball around.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, what you said rings a bell to me. I stunk as a college athlete. I tell people, I love track and field. I wanted to be a star. I wasn't very good. I worked my tail off. I went to Cal State Northridge. I was a walk-on. And same thing as you. I wanted to be involved in a sport. And I remember I think I told my college head coach, Don Stramitz, I want to coach. I want to coach. He said, you want to coach? And he said, yeah. He said, you want to coach? I said, yeah, I want to coach. And I thought it was recruiting. I thought it was cool. I thought it was all this. But I remember the first thing he said to me, you want to coach? He goes, there's 100 hurdles in that shed. Go pick them up and move them.
Yeah. Well, they don't realize that in the beginning stages. That's all coaching is 5%.
And then when you start saying, and so I started telling people, like, I started at the bottom of the ladder. My first coaching job, I made $2,500 for the year. I mean, and I worked 50 hours a week. Yeah. I made $2,500. And anyway, same thing, same story as you. I was head coach at 28, youngest head coach in the country. Then but I've had private trained clients. I've had NFL clients. I've had a lot of first round draft picks, baseball, this and that. So just hearing you say that is really good, because I always tell people, you never know where you're going to go with your career. Because I always tell people, part of me wants to go back collegiately, but also same time, I love coaching the youth and doing the camps and the other stuff too. So glad.
No, it's great. What's amazing about sports is you don't know the doors that it's going to open, the places. I mean, I've been all over this world through basketball, through trips with the team, through recruiting, whatever it may be, preseason tournaments during the season. And, what you probably normally would have had those type of experiences if you didn't have it through basketball. And then all the former players, think about probably all your teammates you had all those years of either coaching them or participating with them in the relationships you established. And now I've got former players, kids that come to my camps or are now being recruited and are prospects and stuff like that. So that's always fun. That's a big part of doing this, is seeing, the relationships that are forever to come from it.
I think it's just funny how we just said, like, me and you started kind of the same. That's why I think it's funny. People think, oh, you guys just got these jobs. No, you started at the bottom.
No. You said you made $2,500. I made $500. My first job was $500. So it's driving the vans, or when I was coaching in high school, there was no van either. It was getting the parents to get their cars and organize them.
Exactly.
Well, I'd be nervous just to make sure the whole team arrived to the game.
Man, who you tell? I had to drive the hammer throwers. The hammer thrower started 5 hours before the rest of the meet.
Oh man. Well, I have a lot of respect for track and field. My good friend went to college with that. Sean Brown was a pole vaulter at Cal Poly. He was
I know his name.
Athlete of the year. Yeah, he jumped to 17.9, I think.
Oh yeah.
And, he had the record till a couple years ago. But anyways, he was my roommate, and we're still good friends. And he was coaching down at UC Irvine a couple years ago. And but anyways, yeah. So I would always be following it through him. And man, what a tough sport individually, and how focused you got to be and commitment. I mean, team sports are one thing, but the individual ones are a whole different animal. So good to hear about your background.
Mm-hmm. So in Cal Poly SLO, you end up working your way up. You end up becoming a recruiting coordinator at Cal Poly SLO. Talk about what it was like having that responsibility and what you look for in players as a recruiter.
Well, as a recruiter, number one thing that you need to look for is talent. And you got to say, who is this person right now, and who will they become? You got to be able to project, because you look at a kid and there might be a few years away until you get them. Things are changing now so much with your recruiting kids that they're coming immediately with the portal and stuff, but you don't know who they're going to be in a few years. And so you look at things called, upside. And there's a big thing I learned a long time ago was, if you have to say if, don't take the kid. Like if you say, if he was a little taller, if he was a little better shooter, or if he, this or if or that, or if he had grades or whatever, it's too much of an issue. So you want to get a guy who has a motor, has a passion, and comes from a winning program. Those are the perfect things you look for. And then obviously position wise, if I'm recruiting a point guard, I want someone that's not going to turn it over, someone that can make free throws, make open shots, and that is a good passer and has a great feel for the game, and can be an extension of you on the floor. If you're a shooting guard, can you move without the ball? Can you set your feet and get it off quickly? Can you shoot a jump shot, or are you just a set shooter? Can you put it on the ground and drive it? And then, big man, can you change ends of the floor? Can you run? Do you have hands? Can you catch it? If you can run and you can catch it, we can work with you, and you'll have a chance. Now, obviously, if you have some moves and you can shoot it and all this stuff, then you're really good. But you got to kind of know who you can get, who you can't. What I mean by, you can waste a lot of time in recruiting going after a guy that you have no chance of getting. But at the same time, right? At the same time,
Bob, not to cut you off, I tell coaches all the time, stay in your lane, man. Know who you are recruiting. Know if you have chance to get them. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Yep. And the other thing you need to do, especially at the lower levels, is you need to have long lists, because your list, sounds good and everything, but that thing can evaporate really quickly. And you're in a staff meeting and you've got, 10 guys that you think, oh, well, I think we can get this guy or that guy. And then you go through it and, nope, this guy just blew up at this tournament. And this guy just tore his ACL. And this guy's flunking out. And this guy that. All of a sudden you're like, where'd my list go? So, you got to have long lists. And, when you're at SC, you can recruit 5 or 7 in a position, and you're probably going to get one of them for sure.
Yep.
Maybe 1 out of 4 just because you're SC. But when you're at the Sac States, the Cal Polys, those level, junior college especially, you got to recruit everybody. So
I would recruit about 50 people for about 5 spots.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Absolutely.
And I knew half of them weren't going to pay any attention to me. I knew, like you said, half would get injured, half being eligible, half some might get arrested. You hate to say that. I just went through the whole gauntlet, and I knew I needed this many numbers to get where I wanted, especially wanting a successful season. And then a lot of times, like you said, you're at Sac State, and that's a great institution. But these kids, they just all think they're going to NBA. So they're like, that's not a good school. I don't want to go there. So you have to sell that school. And, so you got to do all that.
Yeah, they're keeping you warm because they think they're going big time, and you're hoping that you're going to get them. So it's a juggling act. And I'm telling you, they say it's done. It's not done till you sign them. Well, it's not done until they hit the floor and are eligible to play. So signing them, all that means is now people know who the competition is. Because now they can try to get out of the letter, or figure out some other shenanigan, or something can happen, or they don't qualify. That puts them back on the market. So I was always told, get them to the floor, So that means they've gone through the clearinghouse, they've gone through all the academics, admissions, and you have them in class, and they've attended class. And once they've attended one class, now they have enrolled, and they're locked in for you. But things have changed so much now from back then. There was no social media. It was you had lists, and you're calling out of just a regular home phone number. I think barely had cell phones, and we did. It was those big block ones, and it was a lot different. Now you can get a hold of any kid, in 5 minutes. Just get on their Instagram or Twitter or whatever, And most of the time you text a kid during recruiting because they don't really want to talk. But recruiting is all that. It's like I said about the actual process, but it's getting to know the people around the prospect. Okay, who are the decision makers? Is it the mom? Is it the coach? Who is it? And you could spend a lot of time working on the mom and find out if it's the stepdad that's making the decision and you didn't know that. Or however it works. And you learn, by making a lot of mistakes through the years, but then you do get lucky and you get some good ones. So we were fortunate in the places that I've been. We got some really good ones, and a lot of them are still playing in the NBA. So that's the exciting part.
2000, you move on to Sac State as an assistant coach for a year. Then the next year in 2002, you move on to USC. Talk more about the jump from going to a mid-major to a high major school and just the overall differences in both of those type of majors.
Well, it was night and day. It's like going from the outhouse to the penthouse, just everything, facilities, just the level of school. USC is a powerful, powerful institution with amazing alumni. Basically, I really kind of just got lucky. One of their assistants, Damon Archibald, that summer recruiting, we just kind of kept bumping into each other at a lot of the events. And towards that end of the summer, he asked me, he said, would you ever consider coming to SC? And I was like, well, of course. Yeah, I'm at Sac State. And I never heard from him again. Little did I know that whole summer we'd get a bite to eat or we'd be sitting together watching games. Really, I was being interviewed, by him because he was trying to get to know me. And I get a call late August, early September. We've already started class at Sac State. And he says, Bob, you still interested? I said, yeah, of course. And then he goes, and all of a sudden he put the phone down. I was like, who is it? And I hear this, Coach Henry Bibby. And I was like, hello? He's like, yeah. He goes, listen, I want to fly you down Wednesday and talk about making you a Trojan. And my heart just sunk. I was like, yes, sir. He goes, I'll put my secretary on and book you a flight and I'll see you soon. So it was like Wednesday, I don't know, it was like Monday morning, and all of a sudden Wednesday, I was on a flight. I go down there, and anyway, make a long story short, he offers me the job. I go, well, when do you want me to start? He said, Monday morning. I'm like, what's Friday? Okay. So I literally left the meeting at the dinner that night, and I went to go get the little magazines where you used to build the rentals. Forget what they're called, but they don't have them anymore. But thumbing through those, trying to find a one-bedroom apartment, and I found one. I looked at it, put a deposit down, called my friend in Sacramento and said, look, I just got this job. Can you do me a favor and drive my car? I'm going to drive my stuff down, and I'll fly you back up. He said, no problem. So he helped me pack. We drove down. I got there, packed, turned around, came right back down, unloaded. I was at work Monday morning. And all of a sudden I was at USC. My whole life has just changed so fast. And
Coach, that's how it goes. I recall I'm just gonna take an interview. I didn't take the job or whatever, but I remember I was at Cal State Fullerton. I had done really well. I wasn't even looking for jobs, like you said. I just was. People were saying there's jobs out there, but I remember Nebraska called me. But the reason why I'm saying that, just how you said the interview at USC. And they said, all right, we want to fly you in. What airport are you at? And at the time, I was like, you got to go to LAX. But I'm near Orange County. They're just like, tell me the airport. We'll fly you in. We'll pick you up. And it was a whole new ball game because at Fullerton, we were scratching and climbing for any dollar we could get or, And I remember Nebraska being like, all right, we're going to fly you in tomorrow. We're going to pick you up. We're going to put you here. We're going to put you here. And then we want to talk to you. And I was like, this is a whole different world. And I didn't even understand it.
It was so different. They put me up at the Marriott down in Marina Del Rey.
Yes.
And then we went out Santa Monica for dinner at some fancy restaurant. And it was big time. And everything just changed so quickly. And then, and part of me wanted to make a move like that because I knew it was going to be so hard to make that jump, you probably got to go a couple places before you get to a USC. So if I could get in at a bottom of the barrel level assistant, I felt confident that I could work my way up. And that's what I did. So I worked for Coach Bibby for, I think it was three years. And then we had an interim coach, Jim Saya, who's Cal State LA's coach. He works under Daryl Gross now. And he did the interim. And then Tim Floyd took the job and he kept me on and stayed with him. And then from there, we had it going and we had some serious players. And then Coach Floyd resigned. We had a bunch of stuff going on with OJ Mayo, and the Reggie Bush thing was hot. And it just kind of got a little toasty there. And then they hired Kevin O'Neill, and he was coming from the NBA. He didn't have a staff. So, and I stayed on with him. And then for three and a half years, and then he got let go mid-season, and they gave me the job. So, it was kind of a crazy 12 years, but yeah, it was a big difference from the lower levels to there. I mean, I remember Mike Garrett, the athletic director. Yeah, I remember calling up there, and I said, "Is there somebody I could talk to you about budget? I'm trying to book some flights and rental cars. Like, what's the budget?" He said, "Mr. Cantu, let me tell you something. As long as you're trying to win a national title, we won't have a budget."
Yep.
I was like,
you need to. Why are you even calling me about that?
I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like,
you're at Sac State. You're like, I got to call my AD and my sports supervisor. I got to ask for like all this. At USC, he's probably looking at you and calling like, why are you calling me for this?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. It was like, what? And like, so it's like every Marriott, it didn't matter how much it was. You had make sure you have a nice car, because when you pull into the parking lot, you want to make a statement. And you always have good meals and per diem and all that stuff. The team travel, everything is, the coaches' rooms are all decked out and they have fruit in them and beverages and everything for the I mean, everything is just, it's high level. The pregame meals, the postgame meals, and so that was awesome. I mean, that was a great experience. And then we moved into the Galen Center in 2006, and that was a $150 million arena. It was all brand new, and that really kind of changed everything at that job. It really made it even nicer. Just being downtown LA, right by Staples Center, where Lakers, a lot of the pros would come work out where we were. You go to the USC Notre Dame football game. It was incredible. You bring recruits on the field. It was such an advantage being in LA that we would get all these top kids to come on campus. And it was a great experience, but man, it's a fast pace, and there's no days off, and there's no breaks, and you don't even know the days. You just go by the numbers. 17th, okay, and you're looking at it, okay, when can I possibly get a day off? You're looking at the calendar. You're going, all right, maybe this Sunday afternoon in 2 weeks. I think I'm all right, cool, and don't even try to figure out dating, because you don't have time. You're happy just to get home decently and get some sleep. So it's a monster, but it's fun, and it's definitely an experience to share stories like this, and it was great, AJ and Chris.
So yeah, you were considered one of the top recruiters in the nation. Helped USC land the #1 overall recruiting class in 2007, #7 in 2008, #5 in 2009, and #6 in 2010. You've recruited some big names that a lot of fans on this podcast will be familiar with. You've recruited OJ Mayo, DeMar DeRozan, Dwayne Dedman, Taj Gibson, Nikola Vucevic, Nick Young, and a couple other special cases that we're going to talk about later in the podcast. But just for the specific guys who have made the NBA that you've recruited, talk more about the difference between just recruiting surefire, no-brainer NBA guys versus just guys who are just going to be college players at USC.
It's a great question. OJ Mayo, DeMar DeRozan, they were #1, #2 overall players in the country. It was clear, they were going to be in the NBA. Question was, how long would they be in the NBA? DeMar couldn't shoot it. He shot 9% from three, and he averaged, I think, 9 or 10 a game for us. The Pac-10 tournament changed his career. Everybody was there, from Danny Ainge to Pat Riley to all the NBA front office people, and he showed out. And we won the Pac-12 tournament, and he played himself into the #9 pick. And you see what he's doing now. He's still putting up big numbers. those guys were clear. Now, a guy like Dwayne Dedman did not play high school basketball, averaged 4 points, 3 rebounds, Antelope Valley Junior College. And my friend Dieter Horton was coaching him, and he said, Bob, you got to see this guy. I said, Dieter, he averages 4 points per game at California JUCO. Are you crazy?
Yeah, I can't do that.
I can't do this. He said, just come up. So I come up and watch him. And I go, this guy plays so hard. My God, he's got a motor. He's so long and he can catch it. He's just kind of, uncoordinated a little bit and gangly. I said, all right, we'll keep watching him. Well, this is like maybe, I don't know, a month, 2 later. There's a tournament at the Galen Center, a JUCO event. And it happens to be right there. So new coach Kevin O'Neill, I said, look, coach, come upstairs. This kid I want you to see. I said, don't worry about his stats or anything. Just tell me what you think. So he watches him warm up for about 10 minutes. He said, we're offering him. I said, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, Bob, I've done this longer than you. He goes, that kid's a pro. And I said, wow, okay. And they had him rated as like a low major, D2. No one even thought this guy could play. Well, we took him at SC. We redshirted him. He got better and better and better. And then he played for us 2 years. And then my last year was his last year. And then he didn't play his last year of eligibility. He didn't get drafted, but he made the what was his first team he made? I can't remember, but he's bounced around. He's been in the league now like 11 years, I think it is. 11 years he's played. He's still with Philly, but it was all about projecting. It was the motor. He played hard. He could run. He could change ends of the floor, and he could block shots. And there's always a place for a guy like that. He didn't have to make a 3. He couldn't even shoot a 3. That developed later on. Nikola Vucevic, he went to Stone Ridge Prep. He had no offers. He was just kind of this dumpy guy. I'm like, I don't like his body. He's real heavy-legged. I don't know if this guy can play or not. No one's recruiting him. And we take him, and he doesn't play at all as a freshman, and because he's playing behind Taj Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends up going to Montenegro in the summer and playing over there, and got a lot of confidence and came back and was a man-child. Left hook, right hook, reverse dunk, 3-pointers. And we're going like, what in the world? And he played 2 years for us, and then he ended up being a first-round pick. And, we had Taj Gibson, who was recruited, but not like top 10 like DeMar OJ. Had some good, D1 recruitment. We pulled the trigger on him. We took a commitment early, and he had a lot of academic work to do, but we took the chance, and he made it, played 3 years for us. And Taj is, I think this is year 13, I want to say, for him. Yeah, I think 08 was his last year, I believe. Yeah. So that's 15 years. He's 15 years in the league. We had Swaggy P, Nick Young, was really talented, but I said, this guy will never be in the NBA. There's no way. But he perfected that mid-range pull-up, and that carried him. He was able to do that, and then he got a 3-pointer, which he didn't have in college. And, his will to just want to play in the NBA got him through. But, the goofiness and some of his ways of doing things kind of caught up to him a little bit and probably cut his career a little shorter. But he did want a title with the Warriors. He got a ring. Gabe Pruitt would have been a first-round pick, but he did decide to go out, and he was the 31st pick. He got a ring with the Celtics. He's stuck in the league maybe 3-4 years. We had Desmond Farmer in my early years, who was with the Spurs. David Blumenthal with the Kings. Sam Clancy. These are guys like when I first got there.
You guys develop guys at USC, not to cut you off, coach.
All the coaches that I work for, they're all those guys are NBA coaches.
Yeah,
so they're all about development. They understand.
You had to develop guys at USC. I'm just saying it from a guy. I'm from Hawthorne. I'm from Inglewood, and as good as USC might look on a national level, it's still collegiately, like UCLA is still the school here, and hey, I went to Hawthorne, and the best player I ever saw was Harold Miner.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay, he went to SC. You get what I'm saying? I'm saying I loved Harold Miner, man,
Yeah.
baby George. So, what I understood was that you, especially back then, before you had the Galen Center and all that, you had the sports arena. It was hard to get guys to go there.
We kids would come on visit. We wouldn't want to take them over there. We'd always say, "Oh, there's something going on." I mean, there might probably be some dead birds you walk over, or some mice, or it'd be freezing cold in there. I mean, they didn't have the court down. I mean, it was a problem. And give Henry Bibby credit, he went to the Elite Eight in the sports arena.
Arena. At the sports arena, the decrepit sports arena.
Yeah,
the Clippers didn't even want to play there.
No. So that was remarkable. But getting back to these recruits, it's just it's a lot of it is just about development. You just getting in that gym and working. A ball and a kid and passing and making a move and over again. When you're tired, making free throws. Penalizing them, making them run, and then getting two guys together and doing drills together. And then, you do individual workouts with 4 guys at a time, and NC2A rules allow you a certain amount of time during the year. Now they've opened it up and you have more time in the summer. Before, summer was really limited. So you didn't have as much time. Most of your time was going to be spring and fall in regards to individuals. But we always did a lot of shooting on the gun, and we always had guys coming in, between classes or at night or whatever to get extra shots up. And you can put it in front of them, but they also have to want to do it. You can't just make a player. They've got to want it, and you got to push, and they have to accept it. Mm-hmm. And boy, is it enjoyable to see a kid come in door, just a guy, and leave as a major prospect, headed to the NBA. It's just remarkable. It's crazy feeling, And I have so many just memories of these guys just like their first day of school moving into dorms, and they don't even know what's going on, and they're riding their bike to class and they can't find the buildings. And now these guys are, I know Nicolo's getting ready to get a new 3 or 4 year contract, I think another 80 million or something, and I think DeMar's made like 250 million, and he's going to make more. I mean, it's just crazy when these guys didn't have $20, to get snacks. So it's pretty cool. But you know what? I also enjoy, recruiting the guys that had a good career. The Mike Garrity that transferred over, a modern day kid. I think he went to Charlotte and Pepperdine, and we took him for 1 year. And he's an assistant with the Cavaliers. Alex Stevenson went to North Carolina and transferred in, and we had him for 2 years, had a good career. He's an assistant with Minnesota. Some guys decided to get into high school coaching or college coaching. And, we had a kid towards the end of my career, Garrett Jackson from Portland, and he was a good player, 9 points per game, and he's an assistant with the Celtics. So, it's a lot of things. It's not just the players that make it big, but it's guys that become coaches or guys that just become successful at being a good dad, or whatever. They become a police officer or a lawyer or whatever it may be, and that SC degree really holds a lot of status for the rest of your life. And so that's what's really, rewarding is you can pick up the phone and talk to these guys and laugh about. Remember back, we had a story when we went to the Sweet 16. We played Oregon in the Pac-10 championship game, got blown out by 30, and had the worst practice the next day. We're getting ready to get on the bus, and Coach Floyd kicks Nick Young out of practice. I don't want to see you. I'll see you when we get to the tournament. I don't want to see you. And he's pouting and everything. And we go there and we played Arkansas, drill them by 19. Mm-hmm. They had Patrick Beverly on that team, crushed him. I think Patrick Beverly had 2 points. We didn't even let him catch it. And then we played Kevin Durant. His last college game was against USC. We beat him by 19 up in Spokane. Went to the Sweet 16. Should have beaten North Carolina and lost. Had them down 16 with 12 to play, and gave it the lead and just couldn't do it. But had a team that probably should have been in the Final Four, a roster. But it's fun. But all those different guys I'm talking about, they're all different scenarios. They're all enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Interestingly, you've also coached a couple NFL players on the basketball team, Greg Gunther and Jordan Cameron. Talk more about what it was like coaching those type of athletes.
Yeah.
Well, Gunther, he was on Taft, right? The tight end.
Yeah, he's a valley guy.
He was a Farmar, right? Farmar Gunther, if I'm not
mistaken.
Yep.
Taft High School. He played center for us, and he was a good basketball player. He was tough, physical down there. He was always good for some fouls, rebounds. Yeah. He was good. Jordan Cameron was just a talent. Just he could shoot it, could handle it. I mean, if he wanted to just play basketball, he would have had a great basketball career. But I also had Cedric Lang. I had a UTEP. He'd never even played in college, or actually take it back. He played 1 year after he was done playing basketball for us. He played 1 year at tight end for the UTEP Miners and did really well. And then he bulked up and became an outside lineman, and he was with the Patriots and the Giants. And I think he's still with the Giants. But my guy with the Packers, the running back, I just blanked out, the really quick tailback. How did I forget my guy's name? You know what I'm talking about. He's with the Packers. He's that's what I'm saying.
You guys are developing players over there.
Well, this kid at UTEP, he was a football player.
He became offensive lineman. You said like he went from basketball to tight end offensive lineman.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was Cedric Lang, but oh God, I can't believe it. I just blanked out. Anyways, but this kid was we had lost a couple kids to injuries, and we were desperate for a point guard mid-season. Went over to the football coach, and he says, "Yeah, well, I've got a couple guys here playing high school.
Yeah,
I'll let you have them." And he ended up being a starting point guard. and now he's AJ. Maybe you can look him up real quick. He's the running back for the Packers. He's got the
wow.
It's like 5'8". He's got braids. I can't believe I just forgot his name. There's so many guys. It's just remarkable.
You're talking about Aaron Jones?
Aaron Jones. My man,
wow. Aaron Jones. He's a good one. Yeah.
Aaron Jones was with us, UTEP point guard, quick, really quick. But as a football player, you watch him play UTEP, he was like Reggie Bush-like. He was so quick and made moves, and I knew he was going to be good in the NFL, and he had he's had a good run there with Green Bay, and I don't know what it'll be like now without Aaron Rodgers, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, that's, those are just remarkable stories.
Speak a little more now. I mean, I grew up in the 90s. Tony Gonzalez went to Cal, and then he was in the NFL, and then Antonio Gates. That's actually been a trend. So you saying this is like, but what I've told people is basketball makes you, it makes you really have good footwork, good balance and stuff. And, like they would say, Tony Gonzalez would say, it was like me getting a jump ball. I could box these guys out. The football guys can hang with me. But like that's become a trend, and it's worked. It's not a fake trend. These guys have developed.
Oh yeah, they've developed, no question. And there's a lot of football.
Jimmy Graham, the Saints guy, basketball, Miami.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this name. This is a long time ago, but there was a guy named Marvin Washington. He played for the Cowboys, won 3 rings, and he played at the University of Idaho. And he was never played football, but Coach Floyd put him on a football scholarship just so he could play basketball. And then they made him into a football player, and he ended up playing 15 years in the NFL and won a bunch of rings. And then his son ended up playing, I think, at Georgia or Alabama or something. It was remarkable. But Pete Carroll, was always a guy that was always open to basketball players. He just wanted an athlete. He figured I can teach him the plays and techniques in football. I just need an athlete that can run and jump. So you see a lot of that where they'll just take a guy and kind of project him out. But yeah, no, that's fun. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, that's the thing about it is you do this for so long, you start forgetting NBA guys. And then we've had, I don't know, for my resume, I had to go through and add them on. There was like 68 guys that went overseas and played, and and you add up all my years, 24 years, guys in every country. So those guys have had a good career as well. You know, it's the other guys that get all the notoriety, but those guys still, fulfill their dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had on one of Chris's earlier programs. We did a video about how definitely that conversion from NBA like power forward can convert very well into like a tight end in football. That has happened for quite a long time now, and people have found that it really translates very well, the skills, the athleticism, and all the tools to make that transition necessary. But this is another topic that I wanted to talk about that was very interesting when I was doing my prep work for this podcast. 2009, you recruited Derek Williams. He was originally planning to go to play for you at USC, but then he ended up switching to Arizona when Sean Miller was hired as a head coach there. I mean, many fans now call him an NBA bust, but at the time, he was like this big-time top recruit, became an Arizona Wildcat legend, number 2 overall pick in the NBA draft, still revered by Arizona's fan base, and remained a consensus choice in their all-time starting 5. But he was originally going to play for you. Talk about what the process was like losing him as a recruit.
Well, we signed Derek. That was his dream to go there. You know, he was a local boy from LA. It was kind of under the radar, was like an undersized 4. Didn't really have perimeter or shooting ability. It's all came later. Had athleticism, but not like how you ended up seeing what he did at Arizona. Yeah. But what happened was he signed with us. And then when Coach Floyd was getting ready to resign, there was all this stuff going on. Mike Garrett released him on his own, but just gave him a full blanket release, which if you're going to release a guy, just say you can go, but don't go to a rival
conference.
Why would you do that? So we lost him and Momo Jones, starting point guard, and Solomon Hill. All 3 of those guys go and start at Arizona and go to the Elite 8. And they were all coming with us. And that was all because of this, this coaching change. And that was so frustrating. I remember every time we would play them, I would just shake my head because I remember even Derek, when he got introduced the first time playing at Galen Center, he said he was so nervous because he didn't know how to act because that's where he wanted to play, and then everything had changed. But it worked out for him. He had a great career at college and then got drafted number 2, but it just didn't stick. But he's had a good career overseas, from what I understand. But yeah, Derek was a talent, definitely. And it really didn't really become a big time recruit till kind of after he had signed with us. Then he started getting accolades. I mean, he was not really ranked that high, when he was younger. Yeah, no, Derek's a good guy.
Let me speak about just very quickly before Alex goes on. It's funny you just said that. I always tell recruits, getting good offers like getting a credit card. You get one, and then they all come out the woodwork. So you just said, when we offered this guy, he wasn't a big high recruit. As soon as we offered him, everybody offered him.
That's and
that's why I say that topic. I'm like, once you get that Fresno State offer, here's USC or Alabama.
Yeah. Well, it's like everybody doesn't want to be the first.
Yeah,
so, you get a lot of bandwagon recruiting. Well, SC offered, so they must be.
They have to be good.
Yeah, so you get a reputation because you've gotten some guys, so people figure if they're on them and they're young, and I like them, that I'm going to take a chance and recruit them too, and then it's a domino effect. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is you end up losing out, and you were the one that put all the time in.
Yep, I tell these parents that all the time. You're the first credit card offer.
That's part of it, but I tell the parents, it's a two-way street. We're recruiting you, but you're also recruiting us, because I don't know what you're going to do until you sign.
Yep.
And vice versa. I could change my mind at the last minute, even if you're verbally committed, and take another kid. Mm-hmm. If it could be a better situation for us, a better fit. Something happens, I lose a different position. We had Brandon Jennings committed to us.
Yeah.
And Arizona stole him. He was just verbally committed. There's nothing we could do. And, he ended up, having a brief career, but was super talented. It was ranked top 3 or 4 in the nation. Lefty. I think he had 50 in a game in an NBA game. We had the guy that I thought was going to be best of all that during that time was a guy named Renardo Sidney. He played at Fairfax High School. He was 6'11".
Yes. He went to Mississippi State, right?
Yeah, he went to, well, he committed to us, and
Okay.
then they wouldn't let us take him because of compliance issues. He goes to Mississippi State, and he just he just couldn't keep the weight off. He got in a fight. He got kicked off a team. He went to draft, didn't get drafted, and unfortunately, he didn't have. He should have been the $100 million man. This
I
guy was so
remember
talented.
him.
Yeah,
That
when
was
I
big in LA. Renardo Sidney from Fairfax.
oh
Huge.
yeah,
He's the
big,
type I
big,
tell
big.
people you got to stay out the kitchen. There's
Yep.
special people you got to stay. He liked too many In-N-Out burgers.
Yeah, he don't really he did, and it just really caught up to him. And unfortunately, he couldn't play at the level, when you're carrying that much weight. And it just, as you move up, the talent is just, everybody's good. So you have to really sacrifice different parts of your game, and a lot of it is conditioning and weight loss. So, but yeah, no, we were in on all those guys, and but people always say, oh, you missed, because I get teased a lot about why we didn't take James Harden and why we didn't take Russell Westbrook. And
Wow.
I said, well, they weren't that level then. They weren't.
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook, he was just a guy. Like when he went to UCLA, everybody was kind of like, okay. And then he just blew up, and his athleticism was just ridiculous. And he's a different type of player. He still struggles to shoot, but he's such a talent, and we
Now
didn't think we
he
wanted.
went to Arizona State, right? And then
Harden went to Arizona.
Harden went to Arizona State, and Westbrook went to UCLA, right?
Yep, yep. And so, and then you had Kevin Love at UCLA, and then we had OJ and Taj. We had Davon Jefferson, who was a talent. So I mean, I say, yeah, well, we struck out on those guys, but we still hit it on a couple other ones that were pretty good. So you can't get them all, but that's all part of recruiting. Is you don't know who's going to make it or who's not. Everybody's got a different path. There's different stories, but it's something else. You could spend so much time on a kid and traveling across the country and this and that, and not get them. Or you can recruit a kid for 2 weeks and get them.
Yep.
And with the transfer portal now, you're recruiting kids like 2-3 weeks and having to make a decision. You really don't even know the kid. So it's changed a lot now, but back then there was a lot of underclass recruiting. So in other words, we were looking at freshmen and sophomores, and you're on them for 4 years, And now, you're looking at a lot of film on guys that are transferring from another college, or maybe a kid that's at a JUCO. And high school recruiting is really taking a step back, which is unfortunate for those kids coming up the ranks. But the sport is always changing. It's always changing. You gotta have to kind of stay up to, why it's changing and how it's changing.
2013, become named interim head coach of USC basketball. Let me talk to the audience. Were you considered in the process back in 2005, but now that you finally became the head coach of USC basketball in 2013, even though it was an interim tag, just talk more about the prestige of being the head coach of USC basketball.
Oh man, what an honor. Well, what a job with a lot of responsibility. You don't realize how much goes into that until you're the man making the decisions and everybody's coming to you. And you have to really be organized and dissect your time to what's most important, which was my practice plan and making sure that we were ready for practice and the game planning. You get pulled here. Pac-12 Network wants you to interview at this time, and ESPN wants you to, and so-and-so this, so-and-so booster wants to say hello, and this and that. Then I remember when Pat Hayden called me and said, we want to officially hire or interview you for the job full time. And it was the week of UCLA. And I said, Pat, do you think we could do it next week? I said, I'm like, what am I doing here? Wait, no, of course I'll interview. Like you're so busy. It's just crazy how it controls your life. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, we beat UCLA at UCLA, and they won the Pac-12 that year. We beat Arizona at home. We won at Stanford. We beat Washington State. Oregon State was my first win. And, we went 9-9, and, it was just a great experience, but it just, we didn't finish out strong. We lost the first round of the tournament to Utah. and they were still considering me all the way down the stretch. And then Andy Enfield makes this splash at Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
It becomes the hot guy, and they didn't even know his name until 2 weeks after the tournament started. And they flew down and met him, and then they offered him the job. I remember Pat calling me at home and says, "Bob, we feel bad. You've been good to us for so many years, but we found a guy, and it's going to be Andy, and blah 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 blah." So that's just kind of how it worked out. But during that time frame, half a season, it's a whole different deal. People actually recognize you in LA. You go to dinner, you go down to Manhattan Beach, and people, "Hey, coach, you coach," and this and that. And you're sitting there in the Staples Center, and there's 18,000 people, and there's two guys standing up, you and the other head coach, and you're just kind of going, "Wow, this isn't Paso Robles High School. This is a whole different deal." But for me, it was full circle because I started working those UCLA basketball camps, and but I met Coach Wooden and stuff. So for me to get a chance to coach against UCLA and to beat them was in their brand new facility too. That was really, really cool. But that was a great experience. Unfortunately, that off season, there was, I think, one or two jobs that opened, Cal State Fullerton, and I think Pacific. That was the only two jobs that opened in the whole West Coast for head jobs. So there was nothing that I could get. And so then, I ended up taking an assistant job at Texas El Paso, interviewed for a couple more jobs the next 2 years, and was runner up, right there to get them, and didn't get them. And then, time ticks away, and you've got all this great experience and a nice looking resume, but timing has to hit, everything has to come together, to get one. But it was definitely enjoyable. I think about it all the time. Met a lot of great people. I'm doing the games, and Steve Kerr was doing our games on Fox. He hadn't even been coaching yet in the Warriors. And I'm meeting with Coach Kerr before and after the games and talking strategy. And then I think a year later is when he got the job with the Warriors. We've seen what he's done. But, you're just meeting so many people in the media. A lot of these people now that are real successful in the media, they were kind of just starting out with the Pac-12 network and doing local games in LA, like Lindsay Soto and people like that. So, it was an honor and a privilege, and I got a lot out of that experience. I always feel like I'm part of the Trojan family.
I'll comment on it. I was an interim head coach like you. It's tough. It's beyond tough. I remember leaving Cal State Fullerton. They're like, "We're going to hire you at Cal State LA, and we're going to pay you this, but you're going to have to re-interview for the job, and we're not promising you anything." And it's like, do I take this, or do I do this, or do I stay where I'm at? So I went through that part. And the same thing, like you, I remember going from like collegiate to professional, private, all that, and going back and forth. And people always go, "Why don't you go back collegiate?" And I go, "Well, I really don't want to. I kind of did it." But also, you just said something. You have this great resume, and jobs don't open up. I always tell people, like, I was never really leaving LA. People kind of knew that with me. Yeah. So if you're not really leaving LA, like you said, Pacific is the only one that opens up in this other job, you're like, so for me, I was like, I'm not going to move to Mississippi to coach track.
Yeah. No,
that was my thing. I was like, so.
Well, it's the same thing. And the thing is you're only quote unquote hot for a certain period of time.
Yeah. So you're only hot for a hot period.
Yep.
And I was hot. There was years I was hot, and there was years where it was like, all right, well, he's just kind of, so that I tell people that, but I love having evolved from college to pro or to private, because I always say I can always go back or whatever, but I kind of did that. And but I love living in Southern California and where my life is. So, but you saying that, it just made me like think like, I'm not the only one that thinks that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So you move on to UTEP. We've talked about you've coached NFL player Aaron Jones. You also coached Cedric Lang, who also played in the NFL. Tell more about the difference between California and then El Paso, Texas.
Well, big difference. Well, first of all, Texas is such a huge state that El Paso to LA is shorter than El Paso to Houston. That's how big the state is of Texas.
No, Paso has its own time zone.
Yeah, exactly. And we were right on the New Mexico border. So you're right by New Mexico State, Las Cruces. That's your rival. It's so much different to live there. I mean, you're right on the border where Juarez is.
Yeah.
It gets pretty warm. We get dust storms. But this was a place that had a lot of basketball tradition. Don Haskins was there. They won a national title.
Yep.
Tiny Archibald, one of the best point guards ever played there. Tim Hardaway, another great point guard, played there. On and on. They had a lot of great talent, and fans come every game. I mean, I remember we had our inter-squad scrimmage. We had 8,500 people at the scrimmage. I couldn't believe it. And then regular games, I remember we played Arizona. They were sold out. And regular conference games or games of meaning, you had 12-5. And, it's one of those things where it's just everybody in town. You either live on the west side or the east side. The west side is where the university is. And it's kind of like its own little tiny town right there. And everybody goes to the same restaurants. And you either live down in the valley or you live up on the mountain. And, it's different living, but it's fun. They got a good sized airport. The problem was in Conference USA is you'd have a conference game against Old Dominion or Charlotte or Florida Atlantic, and you've got to it takes you a whole day to get there, and you're going commercial. You're not going private.
Yeah.
So we would have to leave Tuesday, have adjust to the time zone Wednesday and practice, and then play Thursday, then have to travel maybe to Western Kentucky and play that night, and then Sunday you spend 3/4 of the day getting back to El Paso.
Yeah.
So it's very hard for the players academically, and for the coaches and recruiting wise. We recruited a lot in LA because it was a pretty quick flight and it's pretty easy. Arizona and obviously all through Texas, but a lot of tradition, a lot of great people, and we really enjoyed the 3 years that we had there.
Was Rodney Terry from Fresno State the head coach then when you were there, or was that?
He left. He replaced us.
Okay. So, I remember him from Fresno State because my parents moved there. And
yeah, Rodney was at Fresno. Then he came and took a job at UTEP, I think 4 years, and then he went to.
Now he's at Texas, and he just got re-signed.
Yeah, he was assistant at Texas, and then when all that happened with Chris Beard, he got the interim, and then he proved himself, and he got the job. So he was an assistant at Texas for like 10 or 12 years before he went to Fresno. So he had a lot of experience at Texas. But Ronnie's a good guy, and he did a good job this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you spent 3 years at UTEP. Then after that, you move on to the University of Portland. Talk more about just the transition from UTEP to University of Portland and what it was like coaching for University of Portland.
Yeah, big difference. You're going from super dry to rain every day. You'd have months where you would never see the sun, and that was totally different. Getting used to it. But what I learned is that, you know what, if you're a local, you don't even own an umbrella. If you're walking around with an umbrella, that you look like you're an outsider because everybody's just used to it, and it's just water. It'll dry off your hair or dry off your face or whatever. But it was fun. But that was a private school, Catholic school, high academic. The problem with that job was you're in the same league as Gonzaga, St. Mary's, BYU.
Yep.
Okay, and now you got LMU, San Diego, right?
Yep.
Santa Clara. Okay, where do you fit in? Where do you get a W at?
San Francisco.
All right, and then you got Pacific you're battling with, and Pepperdine.
Yep.
So you had to win as many games you could in the preseason. I would always tell the administration there, winning is important, but it's a mathematical game. If we don't win 10 games in the preseason, we're going to have a bad record because you're not going to go 10-6 in this league. I'm sorry, you're not. I don't care how good you are. And you just look at the history of it. But it was a program that has had limited success. I think they've only been to one tournament. Like it's been a while ago, maybe 96 or something. But Terry Puller was the coach, former player, and I just kind of felt like, you know what, I'm going to try something different. You still recruit LA, and I'm going to go for and we did a great job of recruiting players. They wanted us to take all high school kids. They wanted them to be able to be good students. Well, the problem with that is that's as soon as the NLI or NIL and portal was getting rolled out. So now you're losing, you're a freshman and you go average 12 or 13 a game. Now you're getting recruited right out of your program. And now we lose Marcus Shaver, who becomes a 3-year starter at Boise State, all conference Mountain West. We had him. And then another kid doesn't have any money, so he decides to go to Puerto Rico and go pro, and then another kid tore his ACL. And then, it was just issue after issue. And then a big man left. He goes to San Diego State. And you just couldn't, with the new changes, you couldn't keep your head above water. Now what they've done there is they've added grad programs. And we took the first ever grad transfer there. And they had never even had grad transfer before. So it was a process of kind of like getting the school to adjust to the times. And now they've had a little bit more success, but it was a very challenging job. I loved living there. I loved going to the Blazer games. Mm-hmm. I adjusted to the weather. We had a nice house up on this hill with beautiful views. Everything's green and lush. The problem was when it snowed, they didn't believe in any like what's it called, salt, and they didn't have a lot of those snow blowers. So if it snowed, the whole city was shut down for a couple days. So you'd be at home and you're just stuck for like 2-3 days. You can't go in. There's no practice. There's nothing. So that was kind of crazy. We had that happen a couple times. But other than that, working for Coach Porter was a great experience, and hearing all the NBA stories from when he played, and getting to know a lot of his contacts and stuff like that. So, but it was tough, and at the end of the day, it just didn't work out for me. So that's when I decided I was going to take a break and see what's next for me now. So, but yeah, that was a good time.
University of Portland secured the number 10 recruiting class in the nation after your first full year. Then in 2017, you were named the number 1 mid-major assistant coach in the nation by Hoop Scoop. And in 2019, you leave Portland and focus primarily on your camp program in the San Luis Obispo area. Yeah, we've had Chris on some other podcasts have said that he's kind of doing the same thing. Like he had kind of wind down from coaching college because he just said that was definitely a huge grind. And now he's also coaching a more youth level kids, kind of what you're doing now in the San Luis Obispo area. Talk more about what that transition has been like now, just from coaching the fast-paced lifestyle of coaching collegiately, and now you're just running camps to San Luis Obispo, giving back to the youth and helping beginners learn the game.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I started these camps back in '97, and every year wherever I was at, I went back and was running the camps, and they just kind of got more popular and more popular through the years. Most recently, I've been able to spend more time with them and preparing them. And what I've done is I've established a mentoring program through my camps for coaches. So young coaches that want to get into coaching, they'll come work my camp, learn about the profession, and then I try to maybe get them on somewhere as a grad assistant or manager or video guy, whatever. And we've had guys, Kenny DeWeese, he's associate head coach of Wyoming. He was at my camp working about 4 or 5 years. I've got Brian Bottine, head coach at San Ramon Valley High School, very successful. And we've had a lot of players. Derek Jasper, who played at Kentucky, he was a camper of mine. Kids that played at Stanford, just all over, players and coaches, high school level. Shane Kupperman's assistant general manager of the Pelicans. Coach Bibby, he came, worked my camp, spoke at it. I've had a lot of people do that, but in regards to the coaching and teaching of the kids, I love it because a lot of these kids, their first experiences, they come to a camp, they're 6 years old, 5, 6, 7 years old. We get the small balls, we lower the hoops to 8 feet, and we try to build confidence with ball handling, passing, dribble, all the basic fundamentals. And then we incorporate it with some 3-on-3 games, some 2-on-2, and then we play some full court games, but we don't play a lot because I want these kids to know how to play before they go out and play. But what it does is it gives them confidence. So when they play on their rec league teams or school teams, they've been around it already. Or when they come back the following summer and they've grown and they're a little bit more confident, you see them just all of a sudden progressing from 6 years old to 10. And then they're playing club ball and going into high school and playing. And so it's really neat. You get to meet a lot of people in the community, and that community that I grew up in, a lot of my former classmates, teammates, friends, family, their kids are my campers, and they come. And when you've had over 10,000 kids attend over 27 years now, it's a lot of people in a small community. So you go to the bank and the branch managers, hey coach, how you doing? I came to your camp this year or whatever year it was, and this other person came to your camp and they're now doing this. So this realtor, he went. There's a lot of people that are like, really, what year did you come? And it's all the way throwbacks from way back when I first started it. So it's really rewarding, to coach kids, obviously in college and stuff. But when you see the young ones and you see them progress, and not all of them end up playing competitively, but maybe just like 3 or 4 years as they're young, and that kind of helped them build their confidence in other areas of their life. We talk about life skills and being the right person, and doing your job, all those things that are important in growing up, and so talk about disciplining yourself so others don't have to, and just try to, like, every day have a different meaning aside from basketball. And then we try to give them basketball homework where they take stuff home and they can work on those skills. And we have great prizes. We compete for NBA jerseys, and we have money shot, and we have ice cream, and just a bunch of fun stuff like that, and t-shirts, hats. I always had prizes from all the different schools that I worked at, so you can imagine all those years at SC, there was some pretty cool SC gear. So everybody was an SC fan, it seemed like. But but just continuing that, it's been great. And this summer right now, we have a huge lot of kids already signed up, pre-enrolled, so it's going to be a really, really big summer. So that's going to be fun. And so it's 3 weeks, but it really takes about 8-9 months of prep, planning. You're hiring your coaches, you're handling registrations, reserving dates, insurance, equipment, on and on. And then then the stage is there, you're ready to go when the summer hits, and then it's on showtime. So that's fun. And then the other thing that I was doing a little bit, like spending some time with some of my close friends and observing their practices and giving feedback, sitting in on staff meetings. Most recently, like I was at Baylor, I was at Arizona, San Diego State, watching film, sit down with the coaches. They ask your opinion. You're an outsider. What do you think? I talked to Scott Drew when the season ended. He said, Bob, you saw us a couple times this year. Give me just your overall opinion. I would just say, hey, feel like you need more presence inside. You couldn't score it, put too much pressure on your guards, whatever it may be. And, when you've done it for a while, you could give information to people like that. And so whether it's a young 7-year-old, 10-year-old, or a high school kid, or, a college colleague, it's basketball. It's doing what you love doing. And, when I first was getting out of college, I didn't know how I was going to make a living, but I knew I loved the sport. Yeah. And to be able to make a living and be in basketball for this many years has been a privilege for sure.
Mm-hmm. Also in their camps, you have Courtney Griffin as your yoga instructor. Tell the audience more about how you knew her and just the benefits of yoga, especially for the younger audience out there who've never really done yoga.
Yeah, so we wanted to, every year I'm trying to expand and kind of do something new. And I just met Courtney through LinkedIn, and she's a yoga instructor, and she actually lives in Phoenix. So she prepared all the yoga stuff and then sent it to me on the internet for us to use, and the kids could follow. But we just kind of started with basic stuff, the breathing, the basic poses, relaxing the body, relaxing the mind, how important stretching is. And if we could just give them some basics, basic warm-up type stuff that they can use before they start playing, and I felt like, that could be something beneficial as they grow up. And then, some cool down things once you're done playing that you can do. I personally have done yoga. I've done hot yoga, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yep.
We did it with our team at Portland, and oh my gosh, I don't even know how I made it through. I was just dying to breathe. But it is an incredible thing that could be very, very good for your body and your mind. And so, yeah, we incorporated that, and we still try to, we try to have like stretching stations and other things. We do like a video station with an instructional video on maybe it might be shooting or something like that. So we try to do different things besides just regular basketball stuff. But you also got to make it fun. Kids get prizes. We compete. We do contests and we give out awards and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, and we could talk later, Coach. But one thing I would suggest, I don't like to suggest anything to coaches, but for basketball, I started doing hurdle mobility years ago because I trained track athletes. But putting hurdles out there, especially for basketball players, the hip flexors, all that, just walking over. I had like my NFL guys. I remember I started doing it with my NFL guys, and they got to the point. Antonio Cromartie told me, Coach, I put hurdles in the locker room when I played for the Cardinals. Like I needed 5 hurdles to warm up for the game. And then he said a bunch of other NFL teams had them. So yeah, there's things like that. Like you said, the yoga I think is great. I would say like hurdle mobility just from walking over, especially when you talk about football, basketball, open up your hips is something.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I could probably they have all that stuff just right there outside the gym.
Yeah, and most of them, but I have parents like, oh, his hip flexors are tight, this and that. I'm saying you're the best friends from hurdles outside. That's the best thing.
Do they adjust so that younger kids can
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have trainer ones. I've done video series on them on my webpage, but I've done them for years and years. And when I first started coaching high school track clinics like the LA 84, like you said, I started doing the LA 84, and I remember we started doing hurdle mobility, and it might be 5 coaches. And I remember we got to the end, and now I look, it's like every program's doing it.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's a good idea. Yeah.
No, absolutely. We can talk about it in the future.
Yeah.
Well, Bob Cantu, it's been a pleasure. You've had a storied college coaching career, coached under 4 NBA coaches, coached 14 NBA players, 5 NBA first-round draft picks, 63 professional basketball alumni, went to 5 NCAA tournaments, 10 postseason appearances, been named the top 10 assistant coach by Fox Sports, CoachStat.net, Basketball Times, and Hoop Scoop, and also a member of the Hispanic Coaches Association. You've had a very long, storied college coaching career, so thank you so much again for coming on this podcast, Coach Cantu.
Coach, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to meet everybody. Look forward to talking to you guys again down the road.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you.
Sounds good. Thank you.